So let's take a look at what the graph of tangent will look like. But in order to introduce the look of the graph of tangent, let's just recall that tangent can be expressed as sine or cosine. Since the graph of tangent can be expressed as the graph of sine divided by cosine, we have a cosine in the denominator here. So what we're going to see is, where's cosine 0? When the denominator of the fraction is 0, then the fraction is undefined. So when cosine equals 0, tangent will have vertical asymptotes. Okay, so let's find out when cosine is 0 by taking a look at the unit circle. So now cosine is the x-coordinate. The x-coordinate is 0 at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So from 0 to 2 pi over 2, we're going to have vertical asymptotes at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. In fact, every odd multiple of pi over 2, cosine is 0. So pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2, 9 pi over 2, and in the negative direction, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 2, negative 5 pi over 2. So the odd multiples of pi over 2. So let's see what we have for the graph of tangent. I'm going to graph from 0 to 2 pi, and then we're going to graph from negative 2 pi to 2 pi. We're going to set up our x-axis exactly like we did in the past. Every 4 boxes represents 90 degrees. Pi over 2. Pi. 3 pi over 2. And 2 pi. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put my asymptotes to remind myself not to cross here with the graph. So my asymptotes are at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Again, graph doesn't cross here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the tangent of 0. Well, the tangent of 0 is 0. And then I'm going to calculate each multiple of 45 degrees to calculate the value of tangent. Well, since each 4 boxes represents pi over 2, that means every 2 boxes represents pi over 4. But a degree measure, each 4 boxes represents 90 degrees. That means 2 boxes represents 45 degrees. So I'm going to plot every 2 boxes. Well, the tangent of 45 is 1. Okay, well, every 2 boxes, we have an asymptote here, 2 boxes later. So now what we're working on is the tangent of 135 degrees if we were to calculate this in degree measure. The tangent of 135 is -1. The tangent of 180 is 0. And I'm just plugging these values into my calculator. Tan 180, tan 135. The tangent of, let's see, 225 degrees, 1. The tangent of 3 pi over 2, undefined. And then we're going to continue repeating. So now, this is the way I like to graph tangent. The way to think about it anyway. So now, think about tangent as this graph being repeated over and over and over, plugged into the middle of each of these asymptotes. So if you take a look at these 2 graphs, together they create one of these graphs. So if I were to continue graphing, I would have one of these again, and this would be 5 pi over 2. So every odd multiple of pi over 2, it has an asymptote. So we can plug in a dotted line there, saying don't cross here, and then we would just continue plotting. Okay, and then the same will go in the negative direction. So here's the way I like to think about tangent. To graph from start to beginning, what I like to do is set up your axis, put your asymptotes at the over 2's, and then start with the multiples of pi. 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and then put a dot on the axis. So put a dot on the axis, then left 2, down 1, right 2, up 1. Left 2, down 1, right 2, up 1. Okay, now let's graph from negative 2 pi to 2 pi to show you what I mean. So let's graph from negative 2 pi to 2 pi, which means our y-axis will be right in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi, negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, negative 2 pi. Okay, so I set up my axis. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my asymptotes in there. The asymptotes out of all of the over 2's. So put a dotted line there. Over 2. Over 2. Over 2. And over 2. All of the over 2's are where the asymptotes lie. So I'm going to have an entire tangent graph between each of these asymptotes. So I like to start at the multiples of pi and put those dots on the axis. Negative 2 pi, negative pi, 0, pi, 2 pi. And then each one of these dots, to the left 2 boxes, negative 1, to the right 2 boxes, positive 1. So let's put a 1 and a negative 1 on our y-axis. So to the left 2, not graphing past there, so I'll go to the right 2 and up 1. To the left 2, down. To the right 2, up. To the left 2, down. To the right 2, up. To the left 2, down. To the right 2, up. And then to the left 2, down. And to the right, we're not going past there. Plot it. And there's the graph of tangent.